Come on, just one bite. I promise you'll love it.
If I survive your cooking, dinner is on me.
Deal, but no excuses after the first bite.
In every USA and UK military base, soldiers still whisper one impossible story. The deadliest beast in the entire galaxy, the apex, backed down and begged for its life. But the truth behind this will shock you. First, a lone human woman from Earth looked that monster in the eyes and asked how it would taste. Second, the apex did not kill her. It fought an army by her side and then lowered its head in mercy. Third, she never needed to take a single bite of the beast, because what happened next rewrote the rules of the stars forever. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The galaxy had one rule that every species followed. Never go near the apex. The apex was not just a beast. It was death with scales. It was green. It was huge. It had yellow eyes that could freeze blood. Its teeth could crack starship armor. Its roar could shatter bones from a mile away. Whole fleets had vanished after meeting it. Planets paid tribute just so it would stay away. Kings and warlords whispered its name in fear. No one hunted it. No one challenged it. No one even spoke of tasting it. That idea was pure madness. Then came her. Her name was Captain Lena Voss. She was human. She was from Earth. She was only 26. She had short, curly, dark hair and a smile that never quite looked soft. She wore a simple olive-green jumpsuit with a small bear patch on the sleeve. She was not the strongest human. She was not the richest. She was not even the most famous. But she had one thing no one else in the galaxy possessed. She had a hunger that made no sense. Lena sat in a quiet bar on a border station when she first heard the stories. Alien traders spoke in low voices. They talked about the apex like it was a living nightmare. They said it had wiped out 3 armies in one night. They said it dragged a cruiser into the jungle and ate the crew slowly. They said nothing could kill it. Lena listened. She took a slow sip of her drink. Then she asked one simple question. What does it taste like? The whole bar went silent. The traders stared at her like she had lost her mind. One old reptilian merchant laughed until he coughed. Taste? You want to taste the apex? Girl, it will taste you first. And it will take its time. Lena only smiled. That smile was calm. It was almost friendly. But her eyes were cold and curious. I did not ask if I could kill it, she said. I asked how it would taste. I want to know. I will find out. No one believed her. Humans were still new to the wider galaxy. Most species saw them as soft, loud, lucky, but not dangerous enough to face the apex. Lena did not care what they thought. She left the bar that night and began her plan. She spent 3 months preparing. She studied every report. She bought old maps from smugglers. She trained in heavy gravity rooms until her muscles burned. She learned the jungle world where the apex lived. The planet was called Vera Prime. It was wet. It was green. It was full of glowing plants and endless rain. The air smelled like wet earth and blood. The apex ruled the deepest part of that jungle. No satellite could see through the thick trees. No drone came back. Ships that landed too close simply disappeared. Lena landed anyway. She took a small unmarked dropship. She went alone. No team. No backup. Just her, a sharp combat knife, a plasma rifle, and a small cooking kit. The cooking kit made the few people who knew her plan shake their heads. She was serious about the taste. The jungle swallowed her the moment she stepped out. Rain hit her face. Leaves glowed soft blue and green above her. Strange insects sang in the dark. She moved slow. She moved quiet. She followed broken trees and deep claw marks in the mud. The marks were fresh. Each one was longer than her arm. The apex was close. For 2 days she tracked it. She slept in short bursts in the high branches. She ate dry rations. She watched. She listened. On the third night, the forest went completely silent. No insects. No wind. Nothing. Lena felt it before she saw it. The ground shook with heavy steps. Something huge moved between the trees. Yellow eyes opened in the dark like twin moons. The apex stepped into the small clearing. It was bigger than the stories. Its green scales shone under the rain. Spikes ran down its back. Its claws dug into the earth like knives. When it breathed, hot steam rolled from its mouth. It looked at Lena the way a cat looks at a mouse. It was not afraid. It was hungry. It had never met anything that did not run. Lena did not run. She stood in the open. Rain ran down her face. She raised her head and looked straight into those yellow eyes. Her heart beat hard, but her voice stayed steady. "I came a long way," she said. "I am not here to run. I am here because I want to know how you taste." The apex tilted its massive head. It had heard many languages. It had heard screams and prayers and curses. It had never heard this. For the first time in its long life, the beast paused. Something new stood in front of it. Something small. Something soft-looking. Something that should have been meat. Yet it spoke of tasting him instead. Deep in the jungle, the rain kept falling. The glowing vines swayed. And the deadliest creature in the galaxy stared at a lone human woman who refused to be afraid. The hunt had not started the way the apex expected. The rules of the galaxy were about to break. And Lena Voss was only getting started. The apex did not attack at once. It circled her slowly. Each step made the wet ground shake. Its long tail dragged through the mud and knocked over small trees. Rain slid down its thick green scales. Those yellow eyes never left Lena. It was studying her the same way she had studied it. Lena kept her feet planted. She did not raise her rifle yet. She knew a direct fight would end fast and badly. The beast was 3 times her height and many times her weight. One swipe of its claw could cut her in half. So she talked instead. "You have killed soldiers," she said in a calm voice. "You have crushed ships. You have eaten warriors who came with guns and armor. But you have never met someone who came for dinner." The apex let out a low rumble. The sound rolled through the jungle like distant thunder. It did not understand every word, yet it felt the meaning. This small creature was not begging. It was not screaming. It was speaking as if they were equals. That alone made the great beast slow down. Lena took one step forward. The apex's muscles tightened. She took another step. Then she did something no living being had ever done in front of it. She sat down on a wet log right there in the open. She rested her rifle across her knees and pulled a small metal cup from her pack. She poured water into it and drank while looking straight at the monster. The apex stopped circling. Confusion rolled off it in waves. Prey ran. Prey hid. Prey fought in panic. Prey did not sit and drink water. For the first time, the hunter felt something new inside its chest. It was not fear yet. It was pure surprise. Night deepened. Glowing insects began to float again, but they stayed far from the clearing. The apex finally moved closer. Its massive head lowered until its snout was only a few meters from Lena's face. Hot breath washed over her. It smelled of raw meat and wet stone. Long teeth longer than her hands gleamed in the soft light. Lena did not flinch. She reached out slowly with one empty hand. Palm opened. The apex could have bitten the arm off in a single snap. Instead, it only watched. Its nostrils flared as it took in her scent. Human sweat. Metal. Something else it had never smelled before. Determination. "I tracked you for 3 days," Lena said softly. "I know you killed the last hunting party 2 weeks ago. I know you dragged their leader into the caves. I also know you are not just a mindless animal. You plan. You wait. You choose. That means you can understand me." The beast's eyes narrowed. A deep growl vibrated the air. Lena continued as if they were sitting in a quiet room. I am not here to prove I am strong. I already know you are stronger. I am here because every species in this galaxy is terrified of you. They call you death. They call you the end. I want to know what death tastes like when it is cooked right. The apex pulled its head back. The words made no sense to its ancient mind, yet the tone did. This human was serious. She had come alone into its kingdom with a cooking kit and a strange hunger. That hunger felt dangerous in a way claws and guns never had. Suddenly the beast moved. It was faster than anything that size should be. One moment it stood 10 meters away. The next moment its huge body filled her vision. A clawed hand, the size of her torso, slammed into the ground beside the log, missing her by inches on purpose. Mud and water exploded upward. The message was clear. It could kill her whenever it wanted. Lena wiped mud from her cheek and smiled. The smile was small and sharp. Nice try, she said. But if you wanted me dead, I would already be dead. You are curious now. Good. Curiosity is a start. She stood up slowly. The apex watched every movement. Lena unclipped a thin metal cylinder from her belt. It was a simple scent marker used by trackers. She clicked it open and tossed it onto the ground between them. A strong smell of roasted meat and spices filled the wet air. The apex's head snapped toward the scent. Its tongue flicked out. For a creature that had only ever eaten raw flesh, the smell was completely new and strangely interesting. That is only a sample, Lena told it. I can do better. But first you and I need to reach an understanding. You stop trying to scare me. I stop pretending I am not afraid. Then we hunt together. After that we cook. The great beast stared at the small cylinder, then back at the woman. Rain kept falling. Leaves kept dripping. Somewhere far away, night creatures screamed and went silent. The apex had ruled this jungle for longer than most civilizations had existed. It had never needed a partner. It had never wanted one. Yet something about this calm human with the strange smile and the cooking kit refused to leave its mind. It took one long step back, then another. It did not leave the clearing. It simply sat on its powerful hind legs like a giant-scaled statue and waited. Yellow eyes glowed in the dark. The message was silent but clear. It would listen. For now. Lena felt her heart beating hard against her ribs. She had survived the first meeting. That alone was more than any soldier before her had done. But survival was not the goal. The real work was only beginning. She had to keep the deadliest creature in the galaxy interested long enough to change the rules it had lived by for centuries. She picked up her pack, kept her movements open and easy, and began to speak again in that same steady voice. She told the apex about Earth. She told it about oceans and cities and food from 100 different cultures. She described fire and spice, and the way meat could change when treated with care instead of fear. The beast did not understand every word, yet it listened. Its massive chest rose and fell in slow rhythm. The spikes on its back lay flatter than before. Hours passed. The rain softened to a light mist. Lena's voice never rose and never shook. She was writing a new story in the middle of the oldest hunting ground in the galaxy. And the apex, against every instinct it had ever known, stayed to hear the next part. The mist lifted as morning light pushed through the thick trees. Lena stood and stretched her stiff legs. The apex was still there. It had not moved all night. Its yellow eyes watched her with quiet focus. She packed her things slowly so it could see every action. No sudden moves. No hidden weapons. Time to walk, she said. Show me your jungle. I want to see how the king of this place lives. The apex rose to its full height. Water ran off its green scales in rivers. It turned and moved into the trees without a sound that matched its size. Lena followed. She stayed 10 steps behind. The ground was soft and full of roots. Giant leaves slapped her shoulders. Glowing plants lit the darker paths with soft blue light. The air smelled of wet earth and strange flowers. For hours they walked. The apex showed her things no human had ever seen. It stopped at a wide river and drank. It pointed with its snout at a nest of flying lizards that scattered when it growled. It led her past old bones of creatures much larger than Lena. Some bones still had deep claw marks. The message was clear. This was its land. Everything here lived or died by its rules. Near midday, they reached a rocky cliff with a shallow cave. The apex stopped and looked back at her. Lena understood. This was one of its resting places. She stepped inside carefully. The air was cooler. Old scratches covered the stone walls. In the corner lay a pile of clean bones, arranged in a strange pattern. The apex was not just a killer. It had habits. It had memory. Lena sat on a flat rock and opened her small cooking kit. She pulled out a piece of dried meat from her pack and a tiny stove. The apex watched every motion. She lit the stove. The blue flame looked weak in the big cave, but the smell of heating meat soon filled the space. She added a pinch of salt and a dry spice from earth. The scent grew richer. The apex's nostrils flared hard. It took one step closer. Lena held up a small cooked piece on her knife. "This is how we eat on my world," she said. "Fire changes the meat. It makes it better. Try it." She tossed the piece gently onto the stone floor between them. The apex stared at it for a long time. Then its long tongue flicked out and pulled the meat into its mouth. It chewed once, twice. Its eyes widened just a little. The taste was new. Soft. Warmth. Full of flavors it had never known. For a creature that had only ever torn raw flesh, this was a shock. Lena smiled. "Good. Right. I can make better. But first you have to help me." The apex let out a short rumble that almost sounded like agreement. It turned and left the cave. Lena followed again. This time the beast moved with purpose. It was taking her somewhere important. Late afternoon they reached a deep valley filled with thick fog. The apex stopped and lowered its body. Lena crouched beside it. Below them something large moved in the fog. Another predator. It was smaller than the apex but still huge, with dark red scales and 6 legs. It was eating a fresh kill. The apex looked at Lena. Then it looked at the red beast. The meaning was plain. This was a test. If she wanted to stay in its world, she had to prove she belonged. Lena checked her rifle. Her heart beat fast, but her hands stayed steady. She nodded once. The apex moved left through the trees like a green shadow. Lena moved right. They hunted together for the first time. The red beast never saw them coming. The apex struck from the front with terrifying speed. Its claws slammed the creature sideways. At the same moment, Lena fired 2 clean shots into the soft joint of a back leg. The red beast screamed and fell. The apex finished it with one heavy bite to the neck. Silence returned to the valley. Lena walked up slowly. The apex stood over the kill, blood on its jaws, watching her. She did not reach for the body. Instead, she met its eyes and spoke clearly. "We did that together. My shots. Your strength. Now we share." She pulled her knife and began to cut a clean section of meat, the way hunters on Earth were taught. The apex could have stopped her. It could have taken everything. Instead, it only watched. When she stepped back with her share, the great beast lowered its head to the rest of the kill. That night they returned to the cave. Lena cooked her portion over the small stove. The smell filled the stone room again. She ate slowly. The apex lay near the entrance, its yellow eyes half closed, but every time the spice scent grew stronger, it opened them wider. Outside, the jungle felt different. The usual night screams seemed farther away. Word was already spreading among the smaller creatures. The apex had a companion. a small soft thing that walked beside it and carried fire. Lena leaned against the cave wall and looked at the massive green form. "Tomorrow we go deeper," she said. "I still want my answer. I still want to know how the deadliest beast in the galaxy tastes. But now I think you want to know something too." The apex turned its head toward her. Rain started again beyond the cave mouth. Far away thunder rolled. Something old and powerful was changing in the heart of Vera Prime. The woman who came to taste death had just shared a kill with it. And the beast that had never needed anyone was no longer hunting alone. Days turned into a full week. Lena and the apex moved through the jungle as a strange pair. The great green beast no longer walked ahead like a king, ignoring a servant. It matched her pace. When the path grew steep, it waited. When heavy rain fell, it slowed so she would not slip. Lena talked during the long walks. She spoke of earth food, of spice markets, of fire and smoke and slow cooking. The apex listened with those bright yellow eyes. It did not speak with words, yet its rumbles and head movements began to feel like answers. Each night Lena cooked. She used small pieces from their shared kills. She tried different earth spices she had carried. The apex always took the offered bite. One evening it even pushed a fresh piece of meat toward her fire with its claw, as if asking her to cook it. Lena laughed softly at the sight. The deadliest beast in the galaxy was learning to wait for dinner. On the 8th day the jungle changed. The usual sounds died. Birds stopped calling. Small creatures hid. The apex stopped on a high ridge and lowered its body. Lena crouched beside it. Below them stretched a wide open basin of broken trees and dark water. In the center stood 3 large drop ships. Armed figures moved between them. They wore heavy armor in different colors. Different species. Hunters. Not local ones. These were professionals who traveled between stars. They had come for the apex. Bounty posters across the outer systems still offered fortune for its head or its hide. Lena counted at least 20 fighters. They carried heavy plasma cannons, shock nets, and drone launchers. They had already begun burning, clearing. The smell of smoke reached the ridge. The apex's body tensed. Deep growls rolled in its chest. This was not a rival beast. This was an army that had come to its home. Lena put a hand on its thick front leg. The scales were warm. "Not yet," she whispered. "If you charge now, they will cut you down with those cannons. We do this smart." The beast looked at her. For the first time, she saw something close to worry in its yellow eyes. It had never needed help. Now a small human was telling it to wait. And it waited. Lena studied the camp. She saw fuel tanks near the ships. She saw the hunters setting sensor poles in a wide circle. They planned to trap the apex when it came. She smiled the same sharp smile she had worn in the bar months ago. They think you are only a beast. They do not know you have a cooking partner. They moved back into the thick trees. Lena worked fast. She took apart 2 of her own grenades and wired them to thin vines. She used her last scent markers to make strong-smelling trails that led away from the ridge and toward a narrow canyon. The apex watched her every move. When she pointed, it pushed heavy logs with its head and shoulders, building a simple deadfall trap. When she needed height, it let her climb onto its arm and then onto a high branch. The king of the jungle was taking orders from a woman half its size. Night fell. The hunters lit bright floodlights. Lena and the apex struck. First, the false scent trails pulled half the drones and 6 hunters into the canyon. The deadfall of logs and rocks slammed down. Screams and alarms filled the dark. At the same moment, Lena triggered her wired grenades near the fuel tanks. Orange fireball lit the basin. 2 drop ships blew open. Panic spread through the camp. The apex charged from the opposite side like green lightning. Cannons fired. Red bolts burned the air. One bolt grazed its shoulder and left a dark smoking line across the scales. The beast roared in pain but did not stop. It smashed through a group of hunters, sending bodies flying. Lena ran behind it, rifle up, picking off any fighter who tried to aim at its open flank. She moved from tree to rock to fallen ship part, always shooting, always moving. The fight was loud and ugly. Plasma fire lit the rain. The apex took 2 more hits. Dark blood ran down its leg. Lena took a hard fall when an explosion threw her sideways. Her shoulder burned and her rifle cracked against a stone. She rolled up with only her knife left. A large armored hunter saw her and raised a heavy cannon. Before he could fire, the apex was there. It slammed the hunter into the mud so hard the armor cracked. Then it stood over Lena, chest heaving, blood dripping from its wounds, and faced the last 6 fighters who still stood. Those 6 froze. They saw the famous apex bleeding and angry. They also saw the small human woman stand up beside it, knife in hand, eyes cold and ready. The hunters had come for a monster. They found a monster and a human who fought like she belonged next to it. One by one, they dropped their weapons and ran for the last working ship. Engines screamed. The ship lifted and fled into the night sky, leaving smoke, fire, and bodies behind. Silence returned slowly. Rain hissed on hot metal. The apex swayed. The wounds were deep. It dropped to one knee in the mud. Lena hurried to its side. She pressed her hands against the worst cut on its leg, trying to slow the dark blood. Her own shoulder throbbed, but she ignored it. "Stay with me," she said hard. "You do not get to die. I still have not cooked the meal I came for." The apex turned its massive head. Their faces were close. Blood and rain mixed on its green scales. It looked at the small human who had just fought an army with it. Something old and lonely inside the beast cracked open. It had ruled alone for so long. Now this woman was holding its wounds closed with her bare hands and refusing to let it fall. Lena pulled her med kit and worked as fast as she could. She cleaned the burns. She sealed the cuts with emergency spray. The apex never pulled away. It watched her with wide yellow eyes that no longer looked like a hunter's eyes. They looked like eyes that had finally found something worth protecting. When the worst bleeding stopped, Lena sat back in the mud, breathing hard. The burning ships lit her face in orange light. She met the gaze of the galaxy's deadliest beast. "You are hurt because of me," she said. "Those hunters came harder once they heard a human was with you. I brought this trouble." The apex leaned forward until its forehead almost touched hers. A low sound came from its chest. Not a growl. Something softer. It was in pinches. It was weak. And still it stayed right there with her, instead of dragging itself away to die alone in the trees like the old rules said it should. Lena rested one hand on its snout. "Tomorrow I finish what I started," she whispered. "But tonight we both stay alive. That is the deal." Far above the clouds, the fleeing ship carried word of what it had seen. A human woman and the apex fighting as one. Across the galaxy, the story would begin to spread. But in the smoking basin on Vera Prime, only 2 living beings remained. One was broken and bleeding. The other still wanted her answer. And the distance between hunter and prey had become something neither of them could name anymore. The rain stopped by morning. Smoke still rose from the broken ships. Lena worked through the night to clean and seal the apex's wounds. She used every spray and bandage she had. The beast lay still and let her do it. Dark blood dried on its green scales. Its breathing was heavy but steady. When the sun finally cut through the trees, the apex lifted its head. The yellow eyes were clearer. It would live. Lena sat back against a piece of burned metal. Her own shoulder was swollen and dark with bruises. She was tired. She was hungry. And she still had not finished what she came to do. She looked at the great beast and spoke in a quiet voice. "You are weak right now. I could end this. I could take my knife and my fire, and finally learn how the deadliest beast in the galaxy tastes. That is why I came. The apex stared at her. It understood enough. It had ruled alone for longer than she had been alive. It had never begged. It had never lowered its head to anyone. Yet it remembered her small hands pressing against its wounds while the rain fell. It remembered her fighting at its side when the hunters came. Slowly, the massive creature lowered its body until its chest touched the mud. It stretched its neck forward and turned its head to the side, showing the soft place under its jaw. A long, low sound came from its throat. It was not a growl. It was a plea. The king of the jungle was asking for mercy. Lena's breath caught. She stood and walked closer. She rested her hand on the warm scales of its snout. "You big fool," she said softly. "I never needed to kill you to get my answer." She moved to the supplies left behind by the fleeing hunters. She found sealed packs of meat, oil, and strange alien spices. She built a proper fire in the open basin. The apex watched every step. Lena cooked slowly. She seared thick slices until the smell filled the morning air. She added the last of her earth spices. When the food was ready, she cut a large portion and placed it on a clean piece of hull metal. Then she did something no one in the galaxy would believe. She cut a smaller piece from the same tray and held it out toward the apex. "This is not you," she said, "but we earned it together. Today we both eat." The apex took the offering with surprising care. They sat side by side in the mud and the smoke. The woman from Earth and the monster of Vera Prime shared the same meal. Lena closed her eyes for a moment and smiled. The taste was rich and hot and full of victory. She had come to taste the deadliest beast. In the end, she tasted something better. She tasted respect. She tasted partnership. She tasted a story that would never die. When they finished, Lena stood and packed what little she had left. The apex rose with her. Its wounds were still raw, but it stood tall. It looked at the path that led back to her small dropship, then at hers. Lena understood. She climbed onto a fallen wing from one of the ruined ships. The apex lowered its body. She stepped onto its broad forearm and then settled against the base of its neck, holding lightly to the strong spikes. The deadliest creature in the galaxy carried the human woman through the jungle it had ruled alone for centuries. They reached her ship at dusk. Lena dropped to the ground and turned to face it one last time. "They will come again," she said. "When they do, you will not face them alone. I will come back. And next time I am bringing better spices." The apex leaned down until its forehead touched hers for a single breath. Then it stepped back into the trees and vanished like a green shadow. Lena watched until the last leaf stopped moving. She boarded her ship, started the engines, and rose above the canopy. Below her, the jungle of Vera Prime looked the same as when she arrived. But nothing was the same. Word spread faster than any ship. Traders told the story in every station bar. Soldiers whispered it in their bunks. The apex had backed down. The deadliest beast in the galaxy had begged a human for mercy. And the human had smiled, cooked dinner, and flown away. Across the stars, people began to look at Earth with new eyes. Humans were no longer just the new species. They were the ones who could walk into death's own home, ask how it tasted, and leave with its respect. Lena Voss returned to the border stations with a quiet smile and a bare patch on her sleeve. She never bragged. She only ordered extra spices for her next trip. Somewhere deep in the glowing jungle, a great green beast waited, listening for the sound of a small ship that carried fire, food, and the only friend it had ever known. The galaxy had one less monster and one more legend. And every young dreamer who heard the tale sat up a little straighter, because if a single human woman could make the apex beg, then no nightmare in the dark was truly untouchable. The fire had changed more than meat. It had changed the rules of the stars themselves. The greatest truth was never about the taste of the beast. It was about the moment a lone human refused to play by the galaxy's oldest fear. Lena Voss walked into certain death with a cooking kit and a calm smile, and the deadliest creature alive chose mercy over pride. That single choice rewrote every story told about humans. We are not the strongest. We are not the largest. Yet something in us makes monsters pause and kings listen. The next time you hear that something is impossible, remember the woman who wanted taste and the beast that begged. The stars are still full of apex predators. They are no longer the ones holding the recipe. If this opened your eyes to what one stubborn human can do, Lena proved that courage mixed with curiosity can tame even the darkest legend. Respect can be stronger than any weapon, and a simple meal shared in the mud can change the balance of an entire galaxy. If you felt the power of this HFY story, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next epic tale of humans rewriting the stars. Turn on notifications, drop a comment, and tell me the one creature or empire you want Lena to face next. And if you want more exclusive HFY stories and early access to new narrations, join the channel family today. What would you have done if the apex stood in front of you and waited for your next move?